Joe Grizzly, bitch.
What up, me Militia? I'm Mean Joe Grizzly, and when I'm not watching a remake of a Christmas slasher classic, I'm at the Grizzly Cave watching a review of movies while, of course, crushing beers. And I'm Brett to bring y'all my review of a remake of a sleazy 80s slasher centered around a killer Santa Claus, Silent Night, Deadly Night. And the question that everyone's asking, including fans of this movie, does it do the original justice? Does it improve on the original? Let's find out. This is Grizzly Grade Reviews. When Billy witnesses his parents' grisly murder at the hands of a Santa, it ignites a lifelong mission to spread holiday fear. Every Christmas, he dons a red suit and embarks on a blood-soaked massacre to feed his twisted sense of justice. So when this movie was announced and it was going to be brought to us by the same guys that brought us Terrifier, I got pretty excited. I thought that they were the perfect group of people to reimagine and remake this sleazy slasher classic that centers around a killer Santa Claus. That original movie is not necessarily a quintessential 80s slasher that's a must watch, but it is a damn good time to put on during the holidays. It gets a lot of the Christmas atmosphere that you're looking to see in a Christmas themed horror film. And I think that although the characters aren't very deep, I feel like that the central killer, Billy, is someone who is very fleshed out in a sense that we get a good case study on this kid who was so traumatized as a kid, and no one is trying to help him get through that trauma. They're just pushing him towards it till finally he snaps and he becomes the thing that he's afraid of the most. And I was really curious to see how Cineverse was going to take that concept and mold it and bring it in a new vision for modern audiences. And I think they absolutely nailed it. In fact, this is one of those remakes that might give the original a run for its money. So starting off with the positives, Rohan Campbell as Billy Chapman is great. I think that we all may owe Rohan Campbell an apology for Halloween Ends. I'm one of those people that really did not like the direction that Halloween Ends took, and I definitely did not care for the Corey Cunningham character. I thought that his character could have been something that was great, and if they would have written him a little bit better, but they wrote him to be this character that I, quite frankly, could not stand. He was the soft and mushy boy that just let everyone push him around and literally took everyone's shit. He got beat up by band geeks in high school when he was a full-grown adult in his 20s, and embarrassingly beaten up too. He pulled a switchblade and they kicked his ass and threw him off an overpass. It's just one of those things that I couldn't get behind that character, and I hated the direction that they took that movie. I don't hate the movie as much as a lot of Halloween fans hated it, but it's definitely not one of my favorites, and it was a horrible way to end that David Gordon Green trilogy. Despite how his character was written and the path that character took in Halloween Ends, I think he was very good in that role considering what he had to work with, and I feel like he really gets a chance to shine in this movie. He is pretty damn good as Billy Chapman. You get a character who has all of this past trauma and all of this mental illness and everything, that he is legitimately this drifter and this loner, and you can really sympathize with him on that level. And then there are times when he is in his killer Santa mode where he is a ruthless killer. And I think that he does a very good job of toggling between both of them. There's even moments in the movie where he is trying to keep that side of him in check. And I found that to be very well done. And I think that Rohan Campbell has a future in horror if he wants it, if he chooses to continue to pursuing it, because he does have this feel in the characters that he plays of the kind of wounded puppy dog type character. He does that role very well. Even though it didn't work for me in Halloween Ends, it absolutely worked for me in this movie. And I think one of the big differences on why that role worked better for me, even though these are two starkly different characters in most ways, I think it's because he didn't have that edgelord thing going on like he did in Halloween Ends. He wasn't trying to be super edgy, like we're going to kill this whole town, or we're just going to burn this town down and leave and never come back. Like, he wasn't doing all that hokey bullshit. In this, he was a genuinely, like, character that wanted to do good and thought that what he is doing is good. Rohan Campbell, I owe you an apology, buddy. You did great in this movie. His co-lead Pam, played by Ruby Modine, she is great in this movie as well, where she kind of plays the yin to his yang. She plays this girl who is kind of a down-to-earth girl, but she has a little bit of a darkness in herself as well. She has a very, very apparent dark side that she is keeping under wraps at all times, that comes out when she is very angry. There's a scene in the movie, and none of this is spoilers, but there's a scene in the movie where she took her nephew to a hockey game, and these two bigger kids was bullying, so she went out there and took a hockey stick from one of the other players and beat the shit out of both of them. And I thought that was pretty awesome. But she has that edge on her. She has that violent tendency in her when people push her too far. And Ruby Modine did a very good job with that. I haven't really seen much of her in movies. I think that she was in Happy Death Day, and she played a bigger yet smaller role in that movie where she didn't have a lot of screen time. But on this one, she gets to really put herself out there, and she is really great on screen with Rohan Campbell. They have a really good on-screen chemistry to where even though they kind of fall for each other very quickly, it kind of is believable. They are really into each other, and she doesn't like fall head over heels for him like from the get-go. She has to warm up to him, but once she sees what kind of person he is, she likes what she sees and she goes after it. And again, their on-screen chemistry is great. I thought that she did fantastic in this movie. One of the big things that was a real big positive for me was the Christmas atmosphere in this movie. A lot of movies that are set around Christmas time that are horror films, they don't focus on the Christmas aesthetic. And just like with the more recent Terrifier 3, they did a really good job of giving us that Christmas aesthetic that we want to see in a movie that is centered around Christmas. It wasn't just this happened on Christmas Day. There are Christmas lights everywhere. There's Christmas trees everywhere. People dressed up. Just this really cool little gift shop that Pam works at, that Billy ends up working at too, is like this little Christmas shop where you can go in and get like little miniature Santas and Christmas trees and Christmas lights and ornaments and stuff like that. I thought they did a damn good job of doing that. And along with that, they did a good job of making this movie feel more of a gritty retro style feel, not being so egregious like movies that are going for that grindhouse look like the original Terrifier did, but it did a good job of making this movie feel more like a later 80s, 90s like aesthetic when it comes to the cinematography. Probably, though, the biggest positive that I can give this movie is the reimagining aspect that they did with this remake. I thought it was damn good. I really liked the direction and the vision that they had for this remake, because most people, what I was really expecting, and what I think a lot of people are going to be expecting until they watch this movie, is a beat-for-beat remake of all of the cues and scenes from the original movie. And they have some of that in here. They have some callbacks to the older franchise, but they do a good job of reimagining the character Billy and his motivations and how they tell this story that I thought was brilliant. It was the perfect way and the perfect direction to take this franchise. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's one of those things that I feel like if I do, it is going to ruin the experience for you. But let me just say this. It is like they took the concept of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and they added in something on the lines of like mixing it with The Punisher and Dexter. And it absolutely worked for me. I thought it was fucking awesome. I am so glad that they took this in a refreshing and new direction to where it just wasn't a shot-for-shot remake. It was so damn good to see somebody actually use their brain and come up with something new to give us this whole new perspective. And honestly, they left room for us to have more films. It can be a good little franchise in the future if they choose to keep going with this. And I would actually love to see this done every single year around Christmas time to give us that little horror fix that we need around the holiday season. Moving on to the mix aspect, and this is kind of a twofer here, is I expected there to be a lot more gore coming from the Cineverse crew, because these are the people that's behind producing the Terrifier films, and I was expecting this to be outlandishly violent. And it's not tame by no means. There is a lot of good gore in this movie, and there's some parts that's like gives you like that fuck yeah thing, that was badass, but it's not as gory as I thought it was going to be, and a lot of the kills are obscured by dark light for some reason. There's a couple of kills, particularly there's a couple of gunshot kills towards the beginning in the middle of the movie that the movie gets so dark at times that I couldn't see it. I could only see like blood spray or something like that. I couldn't see the actual kill, whereas if this was a Terrifier film, you'd have seen the whole damn thing. And maybe that was a decision that they made, that they didn't want this to be Terrifier light, and I understand that, but it did take me aback a little bit. I wasn't expecting it to be as tame as it was, and again, it's super violent. It's just not on the level of gore that I expected from this production company. Moving on to the only negative that I have, and it's kind of a big negative, was when the third act starts, the movie kind of takes this direction that I didn't hate, but it definitely felt like the movie became a different film, if that makes any sense. Now, the very end of the movie, I thought was a brilliant way to do it. And I'm not going to go any further than that because I don't want to spoil anything, but leading up to that moment, they went in this direction to where it does follow like the path that you think it's going to follow, but it just didn't feel like I was watching the same movie. It felt like I was watching a completely different movie in like the last 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that it is this drastic shift and it just comes to a screeching halt. That is definitely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this movie was very entertaining, and then it gets to the third act, and the third act is kind of slow, but it's not slow. I know that makes no sense whatsoever, but it slows down a little bit, and it goes from being this movie that has a lot of gore and action and stuff in it, and then it kind of breaks its own rules in a sense, and takes this other direction that I just didn't really see coming, but it wasn't in a direction that I wanted it to go in, if that makes any sense. I know I'm being very vague here, but it's just one of those things. I do not want to spoil the movie for you. But I will say the very end result of this movie I thought was a brilliant way to end it, and it is a brilliant way to continue on if they wanted to turn this into a franchise. But overall, guys, I've really liked this remake. I don't know if I would go as far to say at this moment that it is better than the original, but it damn sure gives the original a run for its money. It's something that I'm going to have to watch a couple more times and kind of compare it to the original in some ways, because if you compare everything to the original, you're never going to like anything that comes after it. So, but I enjoyed it. I was entertained the entire time. I was engaged the entire time. I like all the characters, And I thought that Rohan Campbell did a great job in redeeming himself for the horror community. So, horror community, go see this movie and give Rohan Campbell another chance because he was great in this movie. But with all that being said, Silent Night, Deadly Night gets a 4 out of 5 and is Grizzly grade guaranteed. If this is playing in a theater near you, please go see it. I don't know if it's coming to any streaming service. I know that Screenbox was a sponsor, so it's probably coming to Screenbox, but I have no idea when. I know they're doing a theatrical run, and it wasn't in my city, and then out of nowhere the day before, bam, we had showings in my city. So go on the apps, wherever your phone, Fandango, anywhere, look for it and go see this movie because I really enjoyed it, and I thought it's the perfect time to go see a Christmas slasher. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for your continued support and patience. Without y'all, this channel isn't possible. And if you like this video, like it. And if you like it enough, please go ahead over to the channel, hit the subscribe and bell button so you never miss a video. Also, please follow me on all social media platforms so you can get channel updates, movie news, and all forms of badassery. If you click right here, this is all of my Grizzly grade reviews that I've done, and right here at the bottom is the latest Grizzly grade review I've done before this one. So go ahead and check those out. And remember, I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.